Welcome to Bloodbath TV. Today we're doing a spoiler review from the next chapter of the Book of the Dead, Evil Dead Rise.
Written and directed by Lee Cronin. We're no longer in a cabin, we're in an apartment building. And we're with a little family. We've got a mother, her kids, and her sister comes to visit. And, well, Machine Gun Kelly hears on the 1 and 2 starts playing a record of the dead, which is just a narration of the Book of the Dead. And they accidentally summon evil, and it rises all the way to the 14th floor. This is gonna be filled with spoilers because that's what we want to talk about. Like, we're gonna try and structure this likes, dislikes, final thoughts and stuff, but we are just going to talk because why the hell not? There's a lot to talk about. So let's go to our likes. I love the idea of this movie. It taking place in a building is pretty damn cool and creepy because I don't often go to a cottage in the woods, but I do live in an apartment building. And now I'm never looking out my peephole.
Or going in your elevator.
I'm just using the stairs from now on.
It did have a great aesthetic to it because the entire apartment was run down. Like, they even stated in the film, like, hey, like, they're demolishing this in a month. We gotta get out of here. It's just, like, creepy in general. Like, even if this apartment wasn't riddled with evil, it would still be like a very scary place to live.
Yeah, but evil does exist. And I gotta say, Alyssa Sutherland as like the mom here, who's like the head evil deadite, she is terrifying. And sometimes sexy, but mostly terrifying. It's like both things. My mommy issues are showing. But when she does the tub thing,
Mom? Mommy's with the maggots now.
You're like, holy shit, this is so crazy. And even when she like first just starts throwing eggs into the skillet, but like imagine being the kids and you're seeing your mom just like walk up to the stove and just start slamming shit down, doesn't give a fuck about anything. That's scary as hell.
I love that they had like the peephole shot through most of this film because like you're seeing her looking almost in like a fisheye lens where she's got that like real sinister grin. That was scary.
That's one thing that I think this movie has going for it a lot, is that it's genuinely creepy in many aspects. I think one of the other lines was the one in the kitchen.
Oh, where Bridget is eating the glass and says like, I need to kill the bugs in my tum-tum. This line here was brilliant.
That glass eating scene reminded me of Clone High so bad. I was thinking of Abe when he's working for Napoleon.
We eat the mistakes here.
There's so many great things in this movie that like, I just felt like I liked it a lot.
It was gory, like it was graphic. For me, I don't like eye stuff, so there's a lot of times where I wanted to turn away because they kept getting a little too close to certain characters' eyes. Like they had like the tattoo gun like right at that girl's like eyeball. I was like, I'm out.
And the fly landing on the eye.
Yeah, I didn't need to see that either. And that's like a promotional thing. I want to get the vinyl from Waxwork because the artwork looks so good, but then I see the fly on the eye, I'm like, I don't want to look at that.
Yeah, there's a lot of creepy moments. There's gory moments. I think the cheese grater thing was a little underplayed. Like it was promoted way too much, especially with the hashtag. But like the rest of the gore was pretty solid. Like there's blood everywhere. Like this felt like why I like horror movies. Like back in the day, why I'd watch like movies in high school, it's creepy, not overly scary. Like there's a couple jump scares. They're not gonna catch anybody off guard, I don't think. But it's bloody. There's a little bit of comedy in there, but it's not over the top cheesy.
Yeah, like they stayed true to the Evil Dead verse, I guess that's what we'll call it. Because like when you look at the previous Evil Dead films, there's a certain cinematic style that is captured, and they did a good job with this one here. You had that moment where Beth is just covered in blood, and you have that like POV shot of like the camera looking up at her as she's running with a chainsaw, like things like that.
And Beth was a great character in general. I think she was so good, because her character made sense. She's going through a lot of shit. She's been through a lot of shit. She relies on her sister. Her being like the technician, like it made sense that she could make the record play at the end of the movie. Because I think that in a lot of movies, people are just like, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, I'm a scientist. But like her whole thing was, no, I'm like a tech like for a band. Like I know electronics. And so I thought that was great that we like learned that without it being too overwhelming. They really like gave her backstory really quickly of her just like in the washroom with the band. We find out she's pregnant and everything is done like in 2 seconds. And you know everything about her character.
Yeah, speaking of her being pregnant, we did get another really good creepy line when like Elle was like ready to take her soul and like sniffed down her body and was like, ooh, 2 souls. Again, there's just so many little tiny things that are great. And probably one of the more like tense moments in the film is when Beth is listening to the record because she puts the headphones on. Dumb idea in this situation because that's
especially when there's demons literally in your apartment.
You're like watching her like listen and you just see like Elle like going like full Hereditary, just creeping in the corner of the wall.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Even when Bridget is like wrapped up in a blanket and starts like walking around, it was like, this is creepy as hell. Even though the environment is like, it's like almost like a one location, it still felt like a pretty fleshed out setting. Like there's so many different things happening all at once, even within the same apartment. Man, my apartment, you couldn't do dick in. I wouldn't say my apartment's super small, but you definitely would hear everything that is happening in the other room. I don't know how demons are walking around willy-nilly or eating glass.
You don't have a hall.
Hey, that's kind of a hall.
It's like 2 steps.
You're right. You couldn't film a demon movie right there because it would look like shit.
Yeah.
It would just be like, oh, I can see you. But I do like that there's just like all types of stuff happening with different characters because then you also have the little girl, Cassie, with Stephanie, which I thought was the funniest thing. She cut the head off a doll and put it on a staff, and it's Stephanie. That was great. And the fact that she actually like used it, went right through the mouth, right at the back of the head. Lots of gore, lots of blood. And it's one of the few movies that I actually liked that we saw kind of the ending at the beginning. I like kind of forgot about it by the time it got to the end.
This relation to what we saw at the beginning of the film had nothing to do with the characters or the story.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
It builds up to a potential sequel. So that's why I was okay with it. Because like, I loved the idea that we're seeing this cabin and these like 3 people in the woods and we don't know why. But then you hear about, oh, we found one of the 3 books of the Necronomicon, and you're just sitting here like, oh, maybe like Bruce has one, they have one, maybe these other people at the cottage have one. So like we're gonna get this whole like 3-book universe type of thing.
Which is still possible.
It's still possible, but the ending with like the girl living in the apartment and it explains everything, I was like, oh, that's a great way to tie it all in.
She is the one that goes to the cottage and was the demon. And then everybody's gonna be thinking like, well, how many other people in this building lived and could be like evil?
We don't know who's possessed. Speaking of the possession scene, from the original, everyone knows about the trees. In this one, where Elle's in the elevator, and it's like the cords are wrapping around her body and snapping her limbs.
Oh, it was good. It was like a mix of Evil Dead and Suspiria. When the bones are starting to break, like, oh my god, that shit is creepy. There's a lot of little things like that. In general, the movie looks great. It's dingy. It captured the essence of Evil Dead. And all the characters seemed like believable. There's never a time in the movie where I was like, there's no way that person would act this way. It just seemed like, nah, this is what these kids would do. And the fact that nobody was safe, like the kids could die, was kind of great.
Well, one kid did. Threw him across the hall.
Yeah, that poor bastard. Sorry, pal. And Beth being like the absolute badass that she was, especially at the end, like in that hero shot with her with like covered in blood with the chainsaw. That was cool. The whole like blood sequence, like the elevator blood thing, I thought that was dope.
Yeah, they did a good job like keeping true to like Beth having to use a boomstick and a chainsaw.
And now how did you feel about the Resident Evil style mama arachnid thing? That thing was creepy as shit because it's so weird. It's just like mama has all the
babies?
All the babies, and she's like, I want more.
She got the baby arms. Take my strong hand.
No, mom, get in that goddamn thing that's in every movie, every horror movie these days, and just fucking die.
Oh, the wood chipper?
The wood chipper. Kind of like Fargo, Halloween,
Tucker and Dale
thing, Tucker and Dale thing. I don't think I've ever seen one in real life, but every movie's got one. Silent Night, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D. But like, it's those gears. They always do the same kind of gear shots, and I think like it's fine, but I think it's been overplayed. But it was fun. I did like the chainsaw in the head thing. Now, what didn't we like?
I'm actually gonna start this off with the pacing, kinda, because It's not like I disliked the pacing of the film.
We're in the dislikes, so what do you mean?
How the Deadites were stalking everyone was like slow. Like it felt like they were in a small apartment, but it was taking forever for them to like possess someone. I'm like, you're only like 5 feet apart. Like it shouldn't take this long. In a cabin, bam, everyone was dead and possessed and being all like creepy. In this one, it's like, hey mom, see you there in the kitchen. We're just gonna sit on the couch. Hey Bridget, you're in the kitchen. We're just on the couch.
So like, I did like that they were all separated like that, and it kind of gives them their own space. But at the same time, yeah, in a realistic sense, if you're like, I can hear you eating glass in the kitchen.
Exactly. Like if the demons are just having fun and they're toying with their prey, they're not actually like going right for them. They're gonna like play around a bit. The people inside, like with Bridget and then Danny.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and just like the regular Deadites that are just laying there.
Like they weren't mocking them until they got in the elevator.
The people shot just looks too cool with one person. We can't have that old man also jamming his face trying to get his screen time in. There is inconsistencies with how this all happens, but I don't really give a shit.
Like there's no Henriettas. That's what we don't have.
Yeah, there is no Henriettas.
Like
no Ted Raimi cameos that, to my knowledge.
Yeah. You're used to like someone being locked up in a basement and like kind of like toying with them, like dead by dawn, dead by dawn. Like that didn't happen till the end of the movie. Dead by dawn, dead by dawn. Dawn is upon us, and like they're just like, oh, you're gonna be dead by dawn. You mean in like 15 minutes?
Right.
I think you're a little late to the game.
Okay, I can definitely see it. I don't really care, but it is noteworthy. With the cheese grater thing, I really think a lot of people are gonna be like, what's the big deal with cheese graters? In the kitchen scene, more cool shit happened than the cheese grater. The cheese grater was like the worst thing that happened in that kitchen.
So like I've cut my hand. Like I have a scar still right here. You can see
from a grater?
From a cheese grater. It does take a serious chunk out of your skin.
I'm not doubting that. I just don't think that it is the end all be all of promoting this movie. Beth got a goddamn knife through her hand.
Yeah, way worse. That one girl got scalped.
Right. There's like a lot more stuff that already happened. So by the time you get to the cheese grater, it's like, so? And it's like the back of your leg, like who cares?
Yeah.
If it was your face, maybe different. So I think that that was over promoted. My main gripe is the cheese grater. I wish it was greater. Now it's time for our final thoughts and ratings. I thought Evil Dead Rise was an absolute blast. I think this is easily one of the best in the franchise. I had a lot of fun with it. It stayed true to the OGs, but it also was completely different in some aspects. The change of location was great. It resonated with me a lot, and I think all of our actors did an awesome job. I was completely invested in this family surviving, but I also loved watching them all die. Mother? Mommy L, she is so damn creepy and immediately an instant icon. And aside from how great the movie is in itself, I think what I like most is that this universe only grows from here. And I'm very much looking forward to what's next. I had a great time. So I'm gonna give this 4.5 badass title sequences out of 5.
This film did not let me down. I was so excited to watch it, and after seeing it, it lived up to my expectations. They did new stuff, but they kept a lot of like old tropes that you would expect from like the classic Evil Dead movies. This is just one of those films that is a bloody mess in a great way. And I loved how modern the Deadites looked. Elle had the coolest look to her. It was fun seeing her on the screen in all the situations. She was creepy, and our counterpart in her sister Beth definitely had that like hero moment. She was also a great protagonist in both look and acting. My only real issue with the film is just how they paced the toying with everybody. It just seemed too far-fetched for such an enclosed setting. And I really do hope that they continue with these movies because there's so much potential. They dropped the hint of there being 3 books. I would love to see different films from different books, even like kind of tying it all into that like one moment where like every person from all these Evil Dead movies just meet up together, leading with like Bruce Campbell as Ash Williams just kicking down a door, and that silhouette of a chainsaw hand and a shotgun would just be like the icing on the cake.
He's a Samuel L. Jackson. I'm assembling a team.
There's just too much potential to not make this a yearly event. So that being said, I can give this film 4.5 bloody peepholes out of 5.
As always, thank you for watching. Like this video and comment below with your thoughts on the film if you've seen it. If you haven't and you do want to check it out, go watch it in theaters. It's awesome. And if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe to the channel, stay up to date with everything we're doing here on Bloodbath TV.